So now we are getting to the very last keynote of the day, where it is an honor for me to invite Anastasiya Baydachenko, CEO of IAB Ukraine, to the stage to share with us the role of industry organizations during crisis. Anastasiya. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to speak on behalf of my country and IAB Ukraine here offline at Interexin. Definitely a couple months ago, I would present myself with a list of companies I worked for and with a list of positions I held there. But today I'm just saying, I'm Nastya, I'm from Ukraine, I have 3 kids, and this is the first time I left Kiev from the outbreak of the war. What will be my story about? I'm not going to speak about the war, but definitely you will observe the war as a red line during my presentation. I will speak about my experience, both personal and managerial, as experience as NGO leader in time of crisis, in time of war, dealing with expectation gap, dealing with reality, and dealing with team. Speaking about challenges, new challenges for NGO in time of crisis, first of all, we remember all these management and strategy books. Every strategy and management books brings us and teach us that every crisis opens the windows of opportunity. Definitely yes, but just believe me, when you will be in stress or a serious crisis like a war, your first thought never will be about opportunity. Your first thought will be about survival. So I understand it was the war. NGO would have the lowest priority at all, and what will be the fate of IAB team? So human thoughts. On February 24th, this year, all of Ukrainians wake up from unusual alarm. It was air raid siren. I'm 40 years old, and it was the first time in my life I heard this awful sound. That day we had a social media committee, and our group worked on social media market volume estimation, and we tried to keep calm and do our job. And none of us that day even have a thought that this aggression will last some days or weeks. We thought that it's a very short story. But when we are trying to keep our job, we observe that people stop contacting us. Why? Because they were in dangerous places and they want to leave to be evacuated, or they were under occupation already and they have no mobile connection and no internet connection. And definitely we understand it's a serious story. We know from theory, from Snowden theory, that we definitely will face less obvious and complicated tasks in our life, instead more complex and chaotic. It's theory in future. But in Ukraine, we move from theory to reality just in 1 day, and our task as NGO became almost all complex and chaotic. Why chaotic? It was February 26th, so it's just 2 days after start and outbreak started. Our members at Tech Guys started calling me, and they wanted me to organize a kind of industrial activity. I was sitting in sauna. It was a kind of shelter in my apartment. It's like a room without any windows, no glasses. And I was thinking about whether should I escape with my children or stay in Kiev. And I just launched 4 working groups. and we started informational activity. And it was a kind of life-saving, because definitely it was activities, there were projects 24 hours per day and 7 days per week, and it actually saved me from every second news checking. And it's also saved our team, because we are all in that project. I add more details later about this informational resistance, because it was our main activity in February and March. Speaking about new role of NGO, we should understand that every crisis, the war is the most great crisis in the world, definitely change expectation, industry expectation to industry association and to its leader. Usually we communicate with state, with tax administration, we organize committee, organize networking, working on standards. It was like a normal NGO job. But 24th of February changed everything dramatically, and also changed expectation from our work. And I could name that there is 3 main functions: social, communication, and supporting. Maybe supporting is the most important lessons from this situation. Definitely independent of any circumstance, heavy war or it's peacetime, we have a kind of standard package, marketed industry and our members expected from us to do. It's like market volume estimation and send data to Daniel, digital agencies rating, because it's a key event for our industry, to create barometers. This year it was war barometers, but the previous year there were COVID barometers. So digital professional classification and salary check. So a lot of routines we have to do. War or no war, package standard, we must to do it. But we definitely observe changes in our social function, because before war we communicate with our parliament, we communicate with cabinet of ministers with very limited number of questions, mostly legislation or tax. But now we communicate on the field of our greatest expertise, digital communication. And we started collaboration with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, with the Ministry of Defense, with President's Office. Also, as industry organization, we should think about businesses, we should think about people. And that is why we created a kind of industry credentials, helping our members to find new clients abroad. But for concerning digital professionals employment was actually more easier part, because foreign organization, foreign association, they willingly help us. They launch a lot of webinars helping Ukrainians to find jobs. But I couldn't help thinking about that we as industry will face true brain drain, because a lot of professionals, they go abroad and they have jobs not in Ukraine. Communication. IAB Ukraine started a very specific job, acting as country-size agency in campaign of informational resistance to Russia and Belarus audiences, and we tried to win on the field of propaganda. We united media, strategic, creative, and production resources, and try to act as country-size agency in order to provide constantly fresh, relevant communication to the audiences of Russia and Belarus. Also, it was PR, because there were a lot of requests from UA and US and Ukrainian journalist and media specialist, because it was like hot topic and everyone want to know what is going on in Ukraine. And number 3, it's supporting team and members. As for me, it was a kind of surprise because it demands a lot of time. And I launched Tuesday and Thursday status, not because we need status for informational resistance so often, just because people need communication. They were isolated, they were under occupation. Someone tried to escape abroad. And twice a week, I tried to gather them just to speak with each other. And I found that that they have a kind of different levels of stress, different levels of trauma, different level of losses, because someone lost houses, someone family, someone husband. So it was different situation, but it affect our mental states. I consulted with military psychologists, and they recommended me to launch a kind of routine activity without direct connection with war. So in April, we relaunched 10 of our 11th committee. And in April, it was almost normal, our average activity, and which was a very positive sign for me. This relaunch was met with enthusiasm. It means that it really helps our member to support their mental state. Also, we restart our webinar activity from June. So we try to support, we try to help people and give them a kind of point of stability, island of stability. And I add a few words about informational resistance. What is it? It's campaign, standard and non-standard advertising campaign targeted on Russia, Belarus, and later on US and some European countries with different messages. For example, protect our sky, figures and statistics of actual losses of Russian army, some economic point, consequences of sanctions, appeal to Russian soldiers' moms committee. So there were a lot of messages. Later we started collaboration with Office of President, and we received messages from our state and just create creative and turn on our media campaigns. Our businesses spent at least $1.2 million since February till April for this informational resistance campaign. And we couldn't estimate correctly hours of specialists and their salaries. And we couldn't estimate their own traffic they propose for this campaign also. So, what is informational resistance? It was at least 4 or 5 activist groups, not only IAB Ukraine. I always say that there are a lot of, even foreign, we have British activist group, targeted only to Russian and, firstly to Russia and Belarus audience, then to US and European Union also. So we have different messages, and why do we think it was effective? In Russian there is a state agency, Roskomnadzor, agency that controls and censors all activity in the internet. And there was a few briefings of Roskomnadzor, they are in open source, where they thought that they spent billions of dollars on that campaign, and there are thousands of specialists do this advertising campaign against Russia. Even Roskomnadzor appealed to Meta and Google and asked to stop our activity. That is why we think it was significant. Also, the key point I should speak about is managing dispersed team. This is IAB Ukraine team, 4 people in front office, and now me and Olena in Ukraine, Dasha in Germany, Alessia in Poland, our back office partly in Ukraine and Poland. And our members as IAB are also dispersed in Ukraine, in Europe. We have the greatest problem with the people in Ukraine, because Ukraine is a geographically large country, and when we have air raid attack, it could be on the whole territory of Ukraine or on some regions. That is why when we have call, someone could turn off and go to the shelter. So it's not easy task, and in our team, Alesa was still in onboarding process, and onboarding process completely online and from other country, it's also a great problem. As for team, I tried to find out key learnings, but first of all, war brings us not managerial learnings, human, but later I believe these human learnings will be somehow transformed to managerial lessons. First of all, we lost at least 30% of our productivity and average performance. Why? Because of bad sleeping, because of tensions, because of constant evacuation, because of transport, because it's very difficult. So we just understand that people will be worse. I understand that team need time for psychological support. So I need to have not one status, but I need to speak to every girl every week at least one time. Or if I found her uneasy, I should call and speak with her maybe one more time. And definitely, I'm a person of planning. And I hate force majeures. And it's a lesson for me to understand and accept that there are force majeures in our life. And what was important for me is understanding that team expect their leader to demonstrate the highest level of confidence. When the leader demonstrates unconfidence, it just translates to the team. And team feel uneasy. That is why you need to control yourself, control your face in camera, and understand that every word and every smile and every emotion will easily translate it and transferred to your team. Also, I try to see this situation as kind of case study and find out some unsolved tasks and future challenges, both local and global, for NGO, for industry association. So it's my lessons, world lessons for NGO. First of all, and first point is a kind of global learning. We should definitely audit and transform and maybe launch new global organization in order to meet time challenges effectively. I speak about International Red Cross. I speak about a lot of United Nations connected associations that showed at least an effectiveness in Ukraine, for example, in Mariupol case. That is why we as a global community should raise the questions of audit and then transformation of such giants. Because we definitely proved in Ukraine they do not work properly. Also, we as Ukrainian industry plan to create a crisis structure. Because we are not ready for crisis. We are not ready, we have no algorithm, we have no rules, no procedures. And we are going to create such set of rules and such a crisis structure in order any emergency, both ecological, war, nuclear, any possible, we just turn on the structure and everything started working. Also, we have a kind of trouble with communication with state because there were a lot of sources, but there were no official communication, none with ministries, nor with President Office. That is why we as NGO need to lobby a special position, someone with who will be able to brief us, and we will work with the message and use our advertising and communication expertise in order to achieve the goal. Also, it's also my personal lesson as a person of planning. We should accept that our plans and our projects, teams, everything will be flexible. So it is impossible to have a plan and deliver the plan exactly till the last point. So let's learn flexibility. And also, thanks to COVID, work in process digitalization is a new queen. When you have all your processes digitalized properly, you need just laptop, electricity, and Wi-Fi or mobile internet. And everything will work, proved by IAB Ukraine. And some of my personal and very human lesson. Under the stress circumstances, I could say that industry, Ukraine, for example, needs more a kind of industry mom, not integrator, not project manager. I strongly believe that any parental cessation is not good in business, but in stress, in crisis, in war, to be an industry mom is more important than to be an industry integrator. Also, you need to keep your spirit, sense of humor, and ability to be grateful to very small joys. Because if you understand that you are a leader, you will translate your state to your team. And as for me, as a person of planning, we could not forecast every treat. I agree. But we could develop a map of scenarios and a map of algorithms and a map of action plans. And actually, we will have it. Thank you very much. On behalf of my country, I'd like to thank you for support of Ukraine, for support of Ukrainian people and IAB Ukraine. Thank you.